that was helpful, for me getting there. And then I also had like professors at a smaller liberal arts college where I was taught who could help me get there. And so I think it's not a moralizing point at all. I think actually what's really sad to me is the way that so many people who don't have that kind of background then end up having to reach for LLMs when they would want to read Plato or Kant or Hegel, but just don't know how and don't have the resources to sort of figure that out. There's a lot of autodidacticism obviously going on social media, which I think like can be really beautiful, but I think
Mm.
is only kind of a band-aid for the inequities that we have in our educational system.
No, I think so that's right. Well, what I'll say here is that I think there's also a suspicion that a lot of people have, and I read this as part of a larger kind of anti-intellectual sentiment that sometimes gets its fires fanned by different political actors. And the idea being that that kind of difficult writing that you're talking about, Ellie, that dense, almost inaccessible at first type of writing is just gatekeeping, that people write like that intentionally to exclude others. And I think that's a really problematic view because I do believe that different forms of writing can produce different thoughts in the mind of the reader, right? Like reading a really complex sentence with very precise terms allows you to have a complex thought with precise ideas. In the same way that sometimes reading very short sentences that just like hit an idea on the head gives you a similar kind of reading experience. And so that's something that I've had to battle with some of my students at my state university who sometimes are like, why do we have to read Plato or Kant or Freud? Why can't I just read the listicle that explains it and waters it down? And I think the idea there is that you can compress or like depress, I guess, the writing, and that you don't lose anything of value. And so I often have to have a talk with my students about the value hitting your head against a book and then the pleasure that happens when the book opens up for you. But it does require that steep kind of like climb.